Hi, I'm Alexandrian, founder of AtoZ Communications, and this is the Brand Stories podcast. This is where we discuss all things related to public relations, branding, and marketing. This week we have FinOptima's Anat Goldstein. She describes as a new fintech what it's been like for her and her team to develop the branding around FinOptima and how she's communicating that to the world. We got to meet through FinTech is Femme, which is a fabulous group, and so excited that we did. Thank you for joining the podcast.
Thank you. Hi, Alex. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here.
So my first question is, what's your favorite brand and why?
Well, if I have to pick one FinTech brand that I found most interesting, I would say Robinhood. And not just because it's flawless. It's not because it captures what makes FinTech so powerful and at the same time what makes it so complicated. So let me maybe break it down. First of all, they changed the rules of the game. So Robinhood came in with a single clear promise, investment for everyone. That was bold. And before Robinhood, trading felt like locked up, expensive, commission, imitating platforms, high minimals. So that tore down the wall. So no commissions, no minimum account sizes, and they did it on a sleek mobile app designed for people, specifically for those who grew up with Instagram, not Bloomberg terminals. So second thing, what I would like to emphasize is that the product was the brand. So it wasn't about catchy ads, it was about the experience, type swap, and you own the stock or fraction of it. So fractional shares meant to be could buy into Apple or Tesla with just a few dollars. Then added crypto, the whole product was saying you belong in the market too. So that's brand power. And when the design itself communicates inclusion. So the third piece is they spark a cultural shift. So Robinhood didn't just attract customers, they attracted a movement. Think of stocks like Wall Street Bets and even GameStop saga. So Robinhood users were not just trading, they felt like they were part of something bigger, like challenging Wall Street and being in the game. So that's brand at the cultural level. But here's the nuance I love. It's also a cautionary tale. So the same simplicity and gamification that made Robinhood accessible also made it risky. So free trade can encourage over time, confetti animations or lottery tickets. Features can feel more like a game than a serious investing. And when its market turns volatile or when Robinhood halted trading like GameStop, people felt betrayed. So that shows the real lesson. In FinTech, your brand is a promise, but it's tested under pressure. So Robinhood is my favorite brand, not because it's perfect, but because it forces us to think about the balance between access and responsibility. So Robinhood proved that brand is not a logo, it's the product, decisions you make, and whether you can stand behind when the market gets.
Yeah, wow. Very well put. And I'm sure that that's something with your own company. So you've launched FinOptima. Obviously, as you develop that kind of brand, you have to think about what that promise is that you want to make and how you're going to stand behind it. So if you don't mind delving into a little bit of that story of how you came up with this.
Yeah, sure. So how I came up with FinOptima. So the name FinOptima Solutions came from two ideas, finance and optimization. And the more we thought about FinOptima, the more it felt right. So because it's a core, fraud prevention is about making better, faster decisions, optimizing for trust and safety without slowing everything else down. So most fraud systems today are heavy, complicated, and honestly frustrating for banks to use. So you either get a black box score with no explanation or in alerts that waste their team's time. So neither of those is optimal. So with FinOptima, we wanted the name to reflect the opposite of that. So we stand for efficiency, clarity, and optimization in financial services. What we do is not simple to describe, but it's hard. Sorry, it's simple to describe, but it's hard to build. So now what we do in practice is actually quite ambitious. So we build Deep Secure. It is the name of our product, not as a feature, but as a whole new architecture for fighting fraud, and instead threatening identity, behavior, and transaction data as a separate silos. So we connect them. And it's a little like stitching together puzzle pieces. So you only see the real picture when they combine. So that's why we talk about a 360 view profile, imagine being a credit union officer who can see not just a transaction looks too risky, but also that a voice on the call doesn't match the members. So unusual speech pattern or that the typing rhythm is off, that device location doesn't make sense. So when those signals come together, you don't just have a score, you have a story. And that the story is explainable by using plain language. So that's why we provide this explainable AI. So the explainability is huge. And banks or credit unions tell us all the time, we don't want another magic box. We want to know why. So they want to educate their staff. Because when they're sitting in front of their board or regulators, they cannot say, right? So, well, the system gave me the red light. So they need to show evidence or reasoning, and our platform gives them that. So, for example, one credit union CTO told me that straight out. We feel like we are in the arm race with the fraudsters. They're using AI-based deepfakes, and we're always behind. And after seeing our platform, he said, well, finally, I feel like we have this technology to actually keep up. That kind of feedback tells me we're hitting the mark. So now the other piece that makes us different, and honestly, what I'm most proud of is a consortium model. Think about the credit unions don't have the budget like JP Morgan or Citibank or Bank of America. They often outgunned by fraudsters who are collaborative and sharing tactics every single day because they invest in technology, they invest and they're super collaborative. So why should each credit union fight that battle alone, right? That's why FinOptima, we flip the script. So one institution's dedication becomes intelligence for others. It is like moving from fighting in isolated trenches to standing behind and shared shield. So that's where the name also resonates. It's not just optimization for one bank, it's optimization for the whole ecosystem. So I remember talking to a risk officer with a small credit union, and she said, well, we get hit with the same scams over and over again, but by the time we figured out, we already lost money. So when we explain how the consortium works, how if one bank detects a new pattern, everyone also benefits. So she literally said that. That's the first time I felt like we wouldn't always be the last to know. So that's powerful. And the beauty is it is delivered in a way that modern and accessible. We are API first, modular, and cloud native. So you don't have to rip out your systems, work with us. So for a lot of small institutions, that's a huge relief. They can finally get enterprise grade protection without enterprise level cost or timeliness. So when people ask, what does FinOptima do? I tell them, yes, it is a fraud prevention platform, but it is more than that, of fraud prevention intelligence platform. So it's a new way of thinking about fraud defense, unified and collaborative instead of isolated, explainable instead of opaque, and optimized instead of reactive. And I think that's why the name stuck. It reflects exactly the kind of clarity and confidence we want our partners to feel when they work with us. So in short, FinOptima is not a scoring engine. It is an architectural innovation in how fraud detects is built, delivered, and shared.
That's great. Wow. And I love, so especially like you said, bringing that community together and having other people learn from each other is going to be huge with all of this. So is that part of how you're communicating about this, or how have you decided how to get the word out about what you're doing?
Yeah, we keep our messaging very focused. Fraud prevention doesn't have to be a black box, and smaller banks shouldn't fight alone. So that simple framing guides everything we do in marketing, and we repeat it in different ways because that's what resonates most of our audience. So first, we lead with explainability. Banks and credit unions are tired of fraud systems that spit out a score but don't explain why. So we show how them our puts, dashboards, alerts, simple language explanation, no jargon, no mystery math. So for example, instead of a score of 72, with the context we show voice biometrics flagged, unusual pitch changes combined with a new device and unusual transactions, suddenly it is not just a score, it is a story. So that's powerful because risk teams want clarity and they can defend to regulators and the board. And we emphasize collaboration. We talk about the consortium model. Banks defense becomes every bank defense. Credit union specifically love this because collaboration is part of their DNA. We frame it as a collective intelligence, and if one credit union sees a fraud pattern, the other benefits instantly. It gives them the scale of a big bank, so they can tailor all their members. The third one, we stress ease of adoption. This is a huge relief point for small institutions. We're API first, modular, cloud native, so I don't need to rip out your score system or wait 18 months for integration. So you can deploy for weeks. And that instantly lowers the anxiety for CIOs and CTOs and CROs who are often overwhelmed with vendor complexity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do we actually communicate all of this? It is not just a pitch deck. We use different channels for different audience. And conferences, it is more about storytelling, like real examples of fraud cases, member stories, community impact.
Mm-hmm.
One-on-one calls, we show live demos because nothing beats seeing their explainable AI in action. In webinars, we position ourselves as educators and we publish a lot of educational articles. So we don't scare people with fraud is destroying you. Instead, we say, here's how you can stand taller together. That empowerment tone matters a lot, especially with credit unions. So behind the scene, our marketing is structural to scale. So we're building a conversational first website with benefits copy, clear CTAs like join the pilot program or test this license. So we run outbound sequence through some tools targeting chief risk officers and CTOs at credit unions. On our LinkedIn, we post insights, POV pieces, fraud trend states, and founder stories because thought leadership builds trust. So two posts a week, every week, have to be consistent. And every pilot we run, we turn into case study or testimonial. So that's both revenue and content. It's proof, and proof is stronger than promises. So we also layered in thought leadership. I shared perspective of fraud waves like deepfakes, synthetic IDs, fraud, and how explainable AI can respond. So we pitch panels, podcasts, and different events because seen as a part of ecosystem builds credibility faster than running ads alone. And there, the segmentation, we adapt our tone depending on how we're speaking to. CROs want to control and confident. So we frame solution as making them look in control from and they're bored. So CROs want their credibility. So we stress deep secure, plugs into what you already have without breaking IT. So it's seamless integration. Mm-hmm. And fraud teams want relief and empowerment. So we show them how we cut noise, reduce false positives, and help them feel like they're winning a game. So at the end of the day, our marketing is not about shouting louder. It's about speaking in the right language for each audience, clarity for CROs, simplicity for CIOs, and empowerment for fraud teams. So when people ask what our community style, I would say clear, collaborative, and confidence building. Because our product is innovative, yes, but innovation doesn't mean anything if you can't explain it in human terms, but make people feel safe, supported, and part of something bigger.
Love it. And that leads me actually perfectly into my next question. So I've noticed whether it's fintechs or it's banks or it's credit unions, every part of the finance ecosystem communicates a little bit differently and has different issues. What do you feel like within the credit unions is the way that they want to be communicated with, and what kind of information do they need to hear?
Yeah, credit unions are unique. And not just financial institutions. They are member-owned, unity-oriented, and value-driven. So the way you talk to them has to reflect that. A few things I've noticed. First, they prefer members over customers. That might sound like a small world choice, but it's huge for them. If I walk into a credit union meeting and keep saying you're a customer, it feels like I'm missing the point. So their whole identity is about being members owned and serving people, not treating them like accounts on the balance sheet. Second, they care about trust and relationships above all. So with the bank, you can sometimes get away with a slick presentation or list of features. With credit union, that doesn't land. So they want to feel you understand their mission. So, and that you are not just selling the tech, you are protecting their members. And this is important. So when we present FinOptima, we talk less about AI models and more about how things can help them, their members, save from fraud and how helps them build stronger communities. That's what resonates. The third is plain, human language matter. If I start talking about multimodal fusion of behavioral signals, I glaze over. But if I say we connect the dots between how someone speaks, types, and spends money, so you can tell if it's really them or fraudsters pretending. And suddenly it clicks. So it's the same idea, but now it's tangible. And fourth, collaboration isn't their DNA. This is where the consortium model really aligns with who they are, and credit unions already seems themselves as strong when they work together, very collaborative. They're pooling resources, sponsoring programs, or sharing best practices. So when we say one credit union's defense becomes every credit union's defense, it feels natural, and they get it instantly. So now a couple of more subtitles. So I have noticed that make conversation with credit unions different. So they value stories over slides. When I share a story of a member who almost lost money to synthetic or deep fake frauds and how Connect Intelligence could have caught it, they land way deeper than showing them a technical diagram feature to their own members and how the technology would protect them in real life. They balance innovation with caution. A lot of them want cutting-edge tools, not the cure. So they will say that, how does fit with our mission? Can my staff actually use it? Will my member trust it? So you can just teach speed and automation, but you have to show how innovation stays human. The last piece I would like to bring up is their language is value driven. So words like community, safety, trust, transparency mean more to them than machine learning or cloud or API. And of course, those technical parts matters behind the scenes. But when you're face-to-face with credit union executive, it is the human impact that matters most. And honestly, I think that's why I enjoy working with credit unions so much. So it keeps me grounded and reminds me that fraud prevention is not just a technical problem. It's about protecting real people in local communities. As a FinOptima, it's about overwhelming with the stack buzzwords. It's about speaking their language, respecting their values, and showing that innovation can be collaborative, transparent, and members first.
I love that, especially factoring in fintech is femme. I mean, it really shows that they're building a community, and having that kind of relationship is really what everybody ultimately is looking for. Yeah. So it's great that you have tapped into that as much as you have.
Yeah.
Thanks. So last question, for anybody who's listening to this and says, I want to be able to communicate more effectively and get my brand to where I want to be, what advice would you have for them?
That's a good one. So I would give 3 big pieces for advice for any fintech trying to build strong, lasting brand. And I will go deeper into each because this is where I think founders and leaders often go wrong. Number 1, start with a sharp promise. Your brand has to fit in one line. If you need a paragraph, that suffices it. So Robinhood was investing for everyone. Betterment was smarter investing through automation. This was payments for developers. So notice how each is short, clear, and has an enemy in mind. Robinhood fought fees. Betterment fought complexity, and Stripe fought clunky payment processors. So when you're building brands, always ask, what's the problem we are solving and what we are fighting against? And people rally around the mission, not the feature list. The second thing, make the product carry the brand. In fintech, marketing cannot cover for a bad product. Your app experience is your brand. So every step matters. How easy it's open an account? What happens when something goes wrong? Error screen, a decline card, a frozen trade, and how fast can people move money in and out? So their brand movements, like Robinhood nailed onboarding and speed, but when the systems crashed during peak trading days, that also became their brand. For some users, the brand was, I cannot trust them when it matters. So design your flows, even your failures, to reinforce trust. And decline message can be cold and confusing, or it can be clear and reassuring. So that's brand. And the last one is building trust as a feature. This is the biggest one. So fintech's lives and dies on trust. Don't just put with transparent in values. Show it, like use plain language, no jargon, explain risk before the users hit confirm, share data, uptime, fraud losses prevented, security practices. I often say compliance is marketing. If you can explain risk well, you're not slowing down growth. You're building confidence. So think about tokenization, which Vlad Tenev, the CEO and the founder of Robinhood, spoke about in the recent podcast, which I loved, by the way. Imagine owning shares of OpenAI or SpaceX on blockchain trading 24/7. That's exciting, but also scary for regulators. So the firm that will be one of that gives people access and the right safety rails. So the next one, with when evidence not slogan. A lot of fintech brands talk big. Few show proof. Vanguard proof was decade of low fee. PayPal proof was security. Stripe proof was developers love. Robinhood proof was at least early on. It was a free trading and explosive user growth. So when you're building a brand, focus on what hard numbers or case studies can you show. A customer saved like 500 and bank reduced fraud losses by, let's say, 40 or 30%. And investors open an account like within like 1 or 2 minutes. So that speaks louder than any tagline. And the last but not least, think long-term access gets people in, but trust keeps them. It's easy to launch with hype. It's harder to sustain when regulators call, when the market crashes, or when customers lose money. So that's when a brand really proves itself. The best advice I can give, so keep your promise simple. Design your product to embody it. Make trust and transparency a daily practice, not press release. And because at the end of the day, fintech brands not just sell services, they hold people's money, dreams, and futures. And that's the heaviest responsibility for all.
And I'm glad that you're taking that so seriously. Thank you so much for sharing all of your insights with us, and best of luck to FinOptima. I hope that everybody gets to benefit from the learnings that you have, because it would be lovely if none of us experienced fraud.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.